Good morning, everybody. This is Jose Rivera, the CEO of CSIA. I would like to welcome you to the mid-year town hall. The pandemic has forced us to make things differently. I don't think we have ever had a mid-year town hall, but this is a good time to do it. We have important information to share with you. So let me share the agenda. So we will go into the 2020 challenges and the response by CSIA. Then we will go into the 2021 transformation. We'll review a little the financials, and we'll go into volunteer recognition, and we will have plenty of time for Q&A. On the topic of Q&A, I would like you to please write your question in the Q&A box that is provided at the bottom of your screen. And if you want to have some conversations or networking, reach out to other members, please use the chat box. But the questions that will be addressed to the boards and to the presenters, please do it through the Q&A. And we will go to the Q&A at the end of the session. I want to provide you with a brief reminder about who we have on this call and who the current board of directors is at CSIA. We have Luigi De Bernardini as the chair. We have Howard Hoffman as a director, Adrian Fahey as a director and treasurer, Steve Malisco as a director, Frank Riordan, Karen Griffin, and Greg Young, all directors. So let's talk a little bit about 2020, the challenge and the response. This slide you saw at the town hall, and 2020 was a challenge, and it was a challenge for all of us, including CSIA, but very much our community of system integrators and vendor partners. So how exactly did it look like? If you're not familiar with the Easy Stats, this is the instrument that we have to capture on a monthly basis a few things. We always ask, what's your sentiment into the future? Is it up or is it down? We make it very simple. We also ask you about the revenue, and then depending on the month, we'll have two different questions that'll try to gauge specific topics. The statistics committee is in charge of this together with a platform provider. And here what you see on this slide, and keep in mind, current year are the solid numbers. The, let's call them neon numbers, are the ones from last year. So you were looking in January as us having more than 80% a positive outlook. When we moved into February, we were at 76, which was still a very good outlook. This compared to 68% of a positive outlook the year prior. Within 1 month, March of 2020, the positive outlook went down to 20%. You can do the math, it's a 56% drop in the positive outlook. And this was the most dramatic we have seen from the time we have had this platform. I think that for very good reasons, it was a very scary time with this pandemic and all the impact and of the lockdowns, et cetera, et cetera. I also want to highlight that this tool that we have is a very valuable tool. And if you're not using it today, I encourage you to use it and also to participate providing your questions. It is made to be easy. So the questions, you can do it without reaching out to your accountant. Now, continuing and providing the picture for the sentiment for later months, you see an upward trend. And in August, we had a 69% of a positive outlook, getting very close to what we had last year. This is very, very encouraging, and I'm very glad that this has worked out. I think system integrators have been very creative in finding ways to deliver their jobs to end users in the middle of the pandemic and with all the restrictions. I would nevertheless say that the pandemic is not over, and so this upward trend may change. It's subject to change. The situation right now is still very fluid. When we take a look at the revenue trends, and this is part of the Easy Stats, you see that the impact was a little bit delayed. And just to explain, what you see on the top, which are the solid line, this is for the upper quartile. The solid for this year, and the dotted line is for the prior year. What you see with red is the median, and the blue is the lower quartile. So what you see is a little bit of a delay, which is expected, right? Because you get your orders, you have your backlog, and that becomes revenue. But sentiment is able to see that first, you know, like immediately you get the sentiment change. Revenue takes a little bit of a lag. What you see is, but by April for the upper quartile, you had the lowest point, but then you had a very dramatic recovery, and the value is back to where it was a year before. This is not the case for the median, who are still lagging behind last year, or for the lower quartile. Lower quartile didn't see that big of a change, so the variation didn't change that much, but they also have not been able to recover as the upper quartile has. But I think that for all of them, it looks like a promising development. So CSIA did multiple things to address this situation, the situation of not being able to deliver the 2020 conference. And one of them was to enable remote audits. And for this, I would like to invite Karen Griffin, Director, who also sits on the certifications committee, to provide a little update to the membership.
Thank you, Jose. Like Jose said, I'm Karen Griffin, and I'm a current CSIA board member, and I also serve as the board liaison for the certifications committee. Just as many of you have had to pivot on how you go about providing services to your clients in a world of restrictions, travel restrictions, site access restrictions, we at CSIA have traveled that same road. First, it's important to note that CSIA has made audits of branch offices available several years ago. This allowed us to leverage this framework and experience and then adapt to current technology in today's situation. Interestingly enough, too, in the fall of 2019, the CEO, Jose, presented some options to the board to reduce certification barriers, and one of those items entailed enabling remote certifications. As an update to how those are going, first, there's been 5 certifications that have been conducted to date that are remote, and all have been successful. So that's a big nod to the people who have participated in those, as well as the auditors who have conducted them. And then you want to talk about who's qualified to do a remote certification. So basically all branch offices have been qualified to do them and will continue to be qualified for remote certifications. But currently for head offices, it's those seeking recertification. And so we want to make sure we don't have a barrier in place for offices that are seeking recertification. So those are enabled for remote audits. It can be a challenge to go through recertification. You may have questions as to whether or not the certification itself has produced success. Please contact me. I can give you our personal story. We have good evidence that it does. We've been down this road a couple of times, gotten away from best practices, come back to them. There's a strong correlation between implementing best practices and sustained success. So last, I want to cover just briefly on some key factors that lead to success with the remote certifications. We are finding that implementation of remote audits is providing success, as you've seen. Some of the elements that make them run more successfully and smoothly are similar to what we find with in-person audits. For example, preparation. Having a plan to quickly access supporting evidence of compliance makes in-person audits run smoothly, and this becomes even more critical for remote audits where the event is conducted in a virtual environment. Equally important is presentation. Having a plan for the auditor to sort of see the office allows the auditor to capture the elements that they would normally gain by a casual walkthrough. And then finally, the follow-through. Timely response to follow-up items helps auditors come to closure, and it sets the stage for your plans for continuous improvement. CSIA is committed to continuous improvement, and we will continue to take the feedback from the remote audits and share those key takeaways with you. And I want to give a special thank you to our auditors. They've had to take the challenge of converting head office audits to a virtual platform. I want to thank our members who have participated in these remote audits. The early adopters are helping us with finding out the keys to success with remote audits, what challenges have to be overcome in order to make them successful. I want to thank our CEO for recognizing industry trends and having the foresight to bring this option forward even before COVID made it a necessity, because that helped us transition very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. The other thing that we have done is we have leveraged our committees to address the current need. And for this, I would like to bring Steve to present what the committee has done, the marketing committee has done to help system integrators during this time.
Thank you, Jose, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. First of all, the marketing committee, the leadership of that is headed up by Jessica Mlinarik, who's a marketing manager at DMC. We have Georgia Whalen, who's a founder of Rivergate Marketing, and then of course we have Lisa Richter, who's the industry director, of CSIA. And as the title says, the marketing committee, we're doing everything we can for you, the members. And what we've done, recently is, I think you've seen, first of all, there's been a major increase in a lot of media activities. It seems like almost on a daily basis, we're getting, I as a member am getting, emails saying, hey, we've got this opportunity, we've got that opportunity. Do you want to contribute? And I got to tell you, nothing has really changed in, the marketing where media, content is king. So we encourage you to take advantage of those. The other item that the committee has been working on has been to create these keyword-rich content to help, for the CSI Exchange to drive more traffic to us members. The third is, and I don't know how many members are taking advantage of this, but if you go out on a website, there is this marketing toolbox out there, and marketing committee has recently worked on continuing to update that, because the whole idea of marketing is changed. It continues to change, and there's topics out there like creating customer surveys, marketing plans, new releases, using social media. Those are just to name a few. So I would encourage all of you members, if you haven't visited the marketing toolbox, please do that. Last year also, when it comes to buying personas, there was a webinar that was put on last fall on the buying personas for the integrators. Well, the marketing committee has been taking that and has been working on creating the buying personas for the CSI Industrial Automation Exchange. Together with that, though, I keep talking about, as we've seen, sales, marketing, and business development is making such a paradigm shift because of social distancing and because of the whole COVID, that right now the marketing committee is making a major overhaul, is working with the best practices committee to work on a major overhaul for the future release of version 6. But then, taking it one step further, the marketing committee has also put together the webinar series. Last July, as past July, there was a very, very well attended webinar that we put together called "What You Need to Know Now About Marketing." And then on the heels of that, coming up, and this is an announcement for November 4th. We've all learned, we've all become very immersed in this whole idea of the virtual world, social distancing, limited access to clients. So what we've learned when we compare notes, there's some do's, there's don'ts, and there's some recommendations. And I know I personally, in going through this exercise, I've learned a lot recently about, the virtual meetings. So on November 4th, mark your calendars and sign up. We have a webinar coming up called the Virtual Introductory Meeting, Nailing That First Impression to Win More Business. These are services that the marketing committee is doing everything we can to try to help you and me as a member of CSIA to do a better job and drive more business and win more business. So that's what the marketing committee's been up to.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you to the leadership of the marketing committee and for you being the liaison and promoting this important committee. So I would now like to bring Greg Young to present, because we have had a very important initiative called the Future Leaders at CSIA. This is one that originated when one of our members reached out to me during one conference and saying, we represent a group of younger engineers and we have all the potential to become future leaders. Why don't we organize? And in the past conferences, there has always been an opportunity provided for them to have their own lunch. At the last one, we had like a panel discussion just for them, and we want to continue to develop that. But without any further ado, Greg is the liaison. It's just a coincidence that his last name is Young, okay? But I would like him to present on this important committee.
Sure, thanks, Jose. So if you're not familiar with the Future Leaders Committee, the purpose of it is to engage future leaders and help them grow within the company and industry. And this is, it's important to have this type of connection among other like folks who are at similar stages in their careers, because they face unique challenges as they're kind of emerging up the corporate ladder, and it's helpful to have a network of peers that they can engage with and discuss these similar challenges that they're encountering. So, you know, in previous years, we have done some activities at conferences, and, you know, unfortunately, we don't have that same opportunity last year and this coming year. So we are seeking participants to help charter and lead this group in a more remote virtual world. So I think there's still a lot of value that we can get out of this group and expanding its participation, and you know, putting together some plans in place to help all the participants. So my request is, if you are interested or know somebody at your company who's interested, who would see some value in forming this type of committee and putting a network together, please reach out to me. My email address is right here. And we have a few known participants that have done a good job in the past, but we could certainly use some more helping hands.
All right. Thank you. Just as a reminder that a big part of the value that we provide through CSIA comes from engaging in committees and working with others. It allows you to network, but also think of things that you may not have thought of before and that are relevant to the system integration business. So let me provide 2020 in a nutshell, the way we have been delivering value. So we all know that we had to cancel our executive conference, but then we moved quickly. And so we have now this situation where there is a lot going on free out there from different sources. So in a way, there is increased competition for the mind of the system integrator. What I have found is by having regular, shorter, and diverse virtual events with a target of weekly 1 hour is what works best. Not have like 6 hours of sitting down watching webinars. This is like, I think, what has worked for our audience of system integrators. So what we are driving is to have a more disciplined and effective approach to event promotion. We want to fill the calendar very early in the year as best as we can. We want to have like these regular invitations and reminders. And we want to continue to increase the update frequency of our website. And I also want to remind you that CSIA has two alternative ways to communicate and promote system integrators to the end user community. One is the exchange, and you'll see a little bit more later. And the other one is the Talking Automation podcast, which you will also see that has been very successful and that actually has been listened to a very wide audience, including end users. And we are leveraging the lessons from 2020 and the little experiments that we have been doing to create a very exciting 2021. So now let's talk about the 2021 transformation. So when it comes to predicting the future, none of us is good at doing it. So I saw this on LinkedIn, and I needed to share this with you. But for those who were asked, where do you see yourself 5 years from now in 2015? I think none of us got the answer right. So remember that we had the survey from JP Morgan done in March of 2020. This is when the pandemic was hitting, and it was hitting hard. So I'm sharing this just to support my point that it's very hard to predict the future. So when the question was, how long do you expect the impact of COVID-19 to last in the coming months, including March? Only 5% anticipated this lasting longer than 1 year. We all had hopes that this was going to be shorter. And but the reality is a different one. I want to remind you that this JP Morgan survey that we conduct jointly is reaching also prospects. So it's a much wider community than just like the system integrators at CSIA. So you can see here, 201 people participated in the survey and 171 answered this. So I'm also sharing this because I think this is valuable data, and I want to keep encouraging you your participation at these surveys, because we leverage the information in a very big way. So at this point, I would like to bring Luigi De Bernardini to make this presentation about the 2021 Executive Conference. Luigi?
Yeah, good day to everybody, wherever you are in the world. It's, as you saw in probably yesterday, we as a board decided to cancel the 2021 conference. In earlier this year, when we were just trying to understand what was COVID and how was it impacting our businesses, our lives, and our association, we reacted very quickly and decided to postpone the 2020 conference to 2021. And we all hoped, as Jose was saying before, that it was enough time to recover the situation, to get out from COVID, from the emergency, from the pandemic, and to be able to meet in May next year, face-to-face all together, and restart our habits of the executive conference. We as a board had to take a tough decision in the last few weeks. And of course, we don't know if spring of next year, the world will be back to what it was before the pandemic, or if we will be still fighting against COVID. But the reason that moved us to cancel the conference was that it was too risky for the association to commit on that. It was too risky for two main reasons. The first one was just financials. Committing to the conference and not canceling right now was meaning having to spend money if we had to cancel later. And since the risk was high, the future is really unpredictable in these days. And in any case, the situation all around the world is still critical. We thought that this kind of risk was too high to accept. But the other good reason, what we think was a good reason, was that committing to the conference right now meant that we had to work in organizing it and to put a lot of energy in something that we didn't know if we could achieve or not. And so after several discussions and a lot of thoughts, and I can tell you it was a very, very tough and sad decision, we decided to focus our energies, our time, and our brain in find a way to make CSIA, our organization, our house, attractive and useful and valuable, even without the conference. If things will get better, it will be great, and we will be able to meet again all together and have a beer all together in 2022. If things will not get better, we want to guarantee that we are still, that CSIA is still valuable and is still providing value to all our members. But it's even providing a different value with respect to the past because the times are changing. So we thought that some of the changes that happened during this last 6 months will probably last for long times. Some others will go away as soon as we will get back to the normal life. But some of them will stay. Some of our habits changed. We all experienced that that we can do things in a different way, and that we can reach people in a different way, that sometimes we can reach people in a more effective way. And so we all decided that it made a lot of sense to spend this time in trying to find more and different ways to engage our members, to provide value to them in with tools and channels that are different from the executive conference. So you saw during 2020, and Jose just mentioned that we provided a lot of webinars, a lot of content. We increased the frequency of our virtual meetings, and we tried to spread the value and the content all around the year instead of concentrating it in 3 great days when we met together. That's what we are doing for 2021 as well, but we are even thinking of different ways to provide value, and we are thinking even to some ways to provide the part of the value that is more difficult to make virtual, which is networking. So you will see in the next slides and in the following presentation that there are several initiatives that are which goal is exactly to create a networking opportunity. There are 2 main assets for CSIA. One was the conference. The other one are the best practices. So the best practices is another topic where we are focusing a lot of energy in order to keep them relevant and make them even more relevant, taking into consideration the way the changes that are happening or happening in the last few months, and so to capture all the changes that are happening in our businesses as well. I strongly believe that next year, I mean the end of 2020 and all 2021 will be great years in terms of value that our association will be able to provide to all of us. And I really encourage you all to stay tuned, to participate, to basically approach it with really an open mind, without I mean being too stick to the old habits, because I mean there will be a lot of content in all the events that will be organized. And please help us to spread the awareness of CSIA, engage other colleagues, peers, and promote CSIA to them, so that we can even increase the number of members and share information, knowledge, experience, and help all of us to protect and grow our businesses, which is our final goal. All right. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Luigi, and I totally support what you're just saying here. Let me, before I move to the next slide, do a shout out to our association management company, Kellen, and also to the hotel in New Orleans. As you know, when you have a conference, you sign a contract, and in the contract you have a clause for penalties if you cancel the event within so many days before the actual event. We were on the hook for a big amount of money from canceling the conference from the hotel. So that amount was put to zero, fortunately, for the hotel. There are a couple of other items that they had a cost, but this helped CSIA on the financial side as well. So shout out to our association management firm and a big thank you to the hotel. So one of the consequences of the official cancellation of the 2021 conference is that we had asked, and we were very thankful for the rollovers of the sponsors of the expo and of the system integrators registrations. So because we have now made the decision, the board has made the decision to cancel the 21 conference, we now need to do the return, the refund of these rollovers, or ideally encourage you to invest this money in CSIA. So the three categories. First is the executive conference sponsors. So in the coming days, we will be reaching out to all of them through a call, and we will present to them options to reinvest this money. And we have created some suggested custom packages to make it easier for them. We will do something similar for the remainders, because a lot of the sponsors, as part of their package, they receive an expo booth. But those that only had the booth, we will also reach out to them and have the conversation to see how they would like to have the rollover be processed, either reinvested or refunded. For the registrations, here's what we're doing, and this is the way that was recommended by the accounting department, which is like make it clean. For the domestic system integrators, we're going to go back to paper mail. We're going to mail you the check for the refund. We'll ask you to please deposit, but we are including in the same mailing the membership renewal invoice. And hopefully you can write a new check and get this membership renewed. For us at CSIA, seeing the membership being renewed early gives us more visibility into the next year, and we would greatly appreciate that. For the international members, it's a little more challenging because we will not be mailing checks. We will do the process through email, requesting wire transfer information to process with the refund. And then we will send you the invoice as we have always done through an email. And the same story goes, the earlier you can renew, the better it is for CSIA, and hopefully you use these funds. One of the important elements to communicate is that the board approved unanimously in the past days to keep the 2021 membership dues at the 2020 level. So let's get into 2021. For the last conferences, we have developed a logo and a tagline. And that has helped us in a very big way align with the content of the presentations at the conference, what we want to do throughout the year to get ready for the conference, all these different things. I think this has been a great way for us to deliver on first get together, decide, and then deliver on a message and on a certain type of content. For 2021, we are going to promote the whole year. It's not about the conference, it's about the whole year. And for that, we created a logo as we had for the conferences. It's CSIA 2021, and we have this tagline about adapt, innovate, and advance. And this applies to all of you on this call, all of our members at CSIA, and also at our organization. So what does it exactly mean? So what I want to say is the webinar is dead. Long live the virtual event. And what do I mean by that? I think it's a little bit of a shift in attitude and recognize that when we're dealing with Zoom as we are today, this is not really a webinar. We're just leveraging the platform of Zoom to reach out to you in the way that we can do it. So we have created 4 categories of virtual events, and I will go through every single one of them. One is a totally new category, but let me explain. Masterclass is the first group. Here is what we have had traditionally in terms of presentations around the system integrator business, about technology, and since this year, the professional speakers. So this category, we're expanding and allowing the sponsors, to provide more of the technology that they have specifically for the system integrators. So if you will, this category is all about knowledge, insights, and inspiration. The next category, CSIA Assembly, spelled in this funny way on purpose. It's really about community through association. So right now, what we're having with this mid-year town hall is part of the CSIA Assembly. If you recall, this year we had the award ceremony, we had the full year town hall. Those were two events that we would have had in person at the conference. So we had to move them online. And they proved to be very successful. And as a matter of fact, because of the success and also because of the importance of the town hall and the message about 2021, we decided to start this new tradition of mid-year town hall. This is like a good way to get to our members and share our message. The next category is an experiment, but we call it the member mingle. And what we want to do here is to get to as close as possible to networking through shared experiences. So if we remember our conference, we've always had tours at the end of the conference, or during the conference, we would go out for lunches or dinners, really dinners, and that were not scheduled. There was one night that didn't have anything scheduled on purpose to allow for this networking to take place, besides all the networking taking place during the conference. So I know this is like a new way of doing it, but it's like that part of a shared experience, and we want to make it the lighter side. So you will see we already have the first one of these events this year, actually this month, and this is an experiment, so please give it a try. The last category are the virtual events that we have been having in Latin America, and that have been very, very successful. Very successful because not everybody in Latin America has been able to attend our conferences, but they still value CSIA. So with, let me just move on. So with the masterclass, again, these will be the events that we have seen, and it can be panel discussions, it can be fireside chats, it can be presentations. And we are opening to allow technical and product presentations. When we did the survey this year, there was member interest in this type of presentations. Professional speaker, this is a special category within Masterclass. So these are the speakers. If you recall, we had Alex Chowchowski from ITR Economics earlier this year to provide the presentation that he would have done at the conference, and he provided it virtually. And it was very, very well attended. So we don't have anything booked yet, but this is the type of presentations we want to have. Mike Guilfoyle from ARC, he was going to present about digital transformation. We still have to find a way to do that through one of these masterclass presentations. I had a very interesting speaker, Henry Hutchison, and I need to find a way to, again, deliver it through the masterclass. He is about the family business. And I know that a lot of system integrators have their business as a family business. A lot of partners work together, husband and wife, working together in the same system integration business. And that creates some conflicts, and some opportunities. So he will address that. That is what he has been consulting on for a long time. And of course, I am on the hook, to find more speakers to provide in this category. CSIA Assembly, with the new sign here, you see the mid-year town hall. I think this probably will be one of those things that we keep even after we have the opportunity to meet in person. Award ceremony. If you all remember, Steve Goldberg did a great job, reinventing this format, and the town hall was a big success this year too. And here's the member mingle that I was mentioning to you. And this is like the most challenging part about trying to get to the lighter side of things, try to do some networking through shared experiences. This is an experiment, and we want to see how it works. I have seen this comedian in person. I've also seen him through a virtual event that he organized, and that's when I felt we got to do this. So you can also see that Software Toolbox, and a big shout out to John Weber, volunteered as the first one of these sponsored events. So if you have not already done so, this event will take place on October 29th at 7 p.m. Central. It is free to attend. We are able to provide all these events free as part of your membership and through the sponsorship of companies like Software Toolbox. So I want to encourage you, even if you think that this may not be for you, just give it a try. You never know. This is the other category, the last category that I was going to be presenting, which is the Latin American events. I know that this only applies to the members of Latin America, but I think this has been a very interesting development. We had to do it, again, because we did not have the ability to meet in person. And in the case of Mexico, we had been delivering in-person events either through ourselves or through our partners. And we moved into the space. Earlier today, we had another one of these events. And I want to give a big shout out to Carolina Casas, who's the regional director, because she has been the engine behind it. We have also had a lot of support from Eduardo Acosta from Omnicon. And this is to get around the barrier we have with the language on one hand, but also on the content. And let me just share one element. System integrators and their business today in the United States, they don't have to deal too much about inflation because fortunately it has been very low. Inflation is nevertheless a very big part of the considerations in Latin America these days. And so we from the US would never be able to put something as punctual as folks from the region. And this is just one example about how the content has to be different too. So I want to share with you what we will be sharing with our partners, which is CSIA provides the opportunity to be a promotional vehicle to reach system integrators. We are the center of the universe for system integrators, and this creates a unique promotional vehicle. And if you're wondering what this vehicle is, this is the consequence of me being a Boy Scouts leader and building with my son a Pinewood Derby car. So what do we offer to our sponsors? So we're able to reach system integrators via very targeted ads on our website, on our quarterly newsletter, also the opportunity for sponsored content, CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange, but this is also going out to end users. That is also like very important to mention here. And the Talking Industrial Automation podcast, which also goes out to a very broad audience, including end users. So let's do a quick run up. This is like a cutout from our website. And as you can see, we have this leaderboard ad on the top. Right now, we are promoting our estimation course for system integrators, who fortunately is running well. So thanks for those who have signed up. We're also providing the opportunity to provide these banner ads, like the one you see right here about Aviva. And this in the past was available because this would be part of the package of the sponsors for the conference. But we don't have the conference anymore, so we had to reinvent this. So this is now broken out and sold as an opportunity. So how good is our website? Well, as of August, we had an average of 8,100 page views per month. And if you do the math, this gets close to 100,000 page views per year, which is a pretty good number to a very targeted audience. The other thing that we do is the quarterly newsletter. And here we want to open up the opportunity for sponsored content and for the ads. And I'll repeat what I just said for the previous page, which is these ads that we are now having on our newsletter, they were from our sponsors at the conference. This was part of their package, but this will be now broken out. Now, newsletter, you know, how good of a vehicle is that? So it reaches more than 3,600 prospects and members communicating what CSIA is doing with a 17% open rate, which is not bad at all. CSIA Exchange, it brings end users, system integrators, and partners together. So we have had the opportunity to provide these Exchange homepage ads and also within the sections. So let's talk about how successful the Industrial Automation Exchange is. It gets 22,000 page views per month, and this is over 260,000 per year. So there is a lot of traffic going and reaching and validating system integrators and vendors that are out there. There are a lot of system integrators that would like to have like a one-to-one correlation and proof. But I tell you that the buying process for most of us these days for bigger things, it includes multiple points of reference and validation, and the Exchange is one of those. Podcast. We have had the podcast since January 2018. Since then, we have had 58,000 downloads. And here we are creating the category of sponsored podcast sponsorship, I should say. And the picture that you see here is from this individual called Brian Holmes. He works for an end user. Last year at the Rockwell Automation Fair, he made a big point to stop at our booth to thank us for the podcast that he listens every day when he drives to work and back home. And I thought that you may want to know this. This was an experiment at one point, this podcast. It has proven to be very successful. We will continue to drive it. And this, in the times of social distancing, is like an incredible valuable tool for CSIA and for you vendors and for you system integrators to get your word out. So to me, just to summarize, is we have, under the circumstances, an exciting 2021 year ahead. We have done a lot of moving things around, brainstorming. We have attended virtual events. We have attended, different presentations, and we tried to see what will work best for CSIA and our members. We know system integrators are very busy today, and we are just adjusting this. So I'm excited about that. Hope that you get excited as well. So finances are very important to CSIA. And for this, I would like to invite Adrian to take the mic.
Thank you very much, Jose, and thank you to all the previous presenters. So I've got the pleasure of presenting the financials. So this is the exciting part of the presentation. We've seen lots of great pictures, so now we get to see lots of great numbers. So I guess you've heard from Luigi and Jose explaining that certainly we're aware of what happened with the 2020 conference. So that was a big impact on this business. We cancelled the conference. In line with cancelling the conference, if you look at the numbers this year for our membership dues, it has been lower than previous years. And certainly this is related, I'm sure, in some part to COVID, but also in some part just to the fact that we didn't have the traditional business development opportunities that we've had in the past. So we're seeing slightly lower numbers down there, 87% down on 2019. But to the credit of Jose, the CEO, the leadership team of CSIA and Kellen, very quickly they moved to adjust the expenditure. So eliminating travel, which is obvious with COVID, but also reducing a lot of the administration costs. So I'm really looking to save costs wherever we could, but at the same time making sure we're adding great value to the members. This has also meant we've deferred some of our strategic projects, but also we've incurred some additional costs in moving very quickly to more online content, which has been really important to deliver that value. So from a cash position point of view, we asked the members and sponsors to roll over their 2020 conference commitments into the 2021. And as you've heard now, we've now cancelled that conference, and now we'll be reaching out, as Jose mentioned before, to the sponsors, again, asking them to continue to invest in the membership, in the means of virtual events that we'll have coming up, and some of the promotional portfolios that you've seen presented earlier. So let's have a quick look at the numbers. So if you look at the start of the year, you can see where we were budgeting $1.8 million of revenue, producing at the bottom line an income of $134,000, sorry. Now, obviously, very quickly, we saw the COVID coming along, and we worked very quickly together to reforecast what we thought the full year would look like without the conference. So you can see the numbers there, the $853,000 that we saw our revenue would reduce to. So you can see the big impact of the removal of the conference. Our expenditure was still there, and as Jose explained in the previous town hall meeting, there had already been some commitments to the conference that we couldn't cancel and we had to pay. But also, I'd just like to call out the great work that Kellen did there again in being able to move the conference and move those dates, because that did save us a lot of money from the hotel. So they did a great job in negotiating there. So absolutely helped us a lot. But it did put us in a position, regardless, that we were looking of a loss of income of $175,000. Now, if we fast forward to where we are today, you can see we've actually been able to perform a little bit stronger on the revenue line, which is great. And that's what we're seeing for the full year now in the forecast. Our expenditure is up a little. Now, that expenditure is aligned, most of that increase in cost is aligned with now cancelling the 2021 conference and in line with some of those other investments that we've need to make. And if you can imagine, back in May, it was a forecast. In any forecast, there's going to be a slight bit of variance, but still very closely, we're watching the costs associated with our expenses. But the great news is we have been able to reduce that loss that we were looking at. So look, very difficult year, obviously, without the conference, but full credit to the team in being able to very quickly manage our expenses, continue to drive the opportunity around revenue and reduce some of that income loss that we're looking at. Next slide, thank you. So let's have a look at what's our cash position look like. So at the end of 2019, you can see our cash position was over $1.1 million. Now, as we forecast out for 2020, with that reduced, obviously the reduced income produced from not having the conference now, that's had an impact on our cash position. And also we had actually taken in some additional cash early for the registrations for the conference in the previous year. So what we're forecasting now is our cash position at the end of 2020 to be $800,000. Now that $800,000 also does include the deferrals that we made. So if we could look at the next slide, you'll see that that deferral amount from the 2020 conference is $310,000. So we will be working very closely, as Jose mentioned before, working with you, the members, encouraging you to, renew your membership early. We'll also be working very closely with our vendors, with the new portfolio that we're offering, encouraging them to continue to support that, to make sure that we are able to capture that $310,000 there. Now, the worst case scenario, as shown on the graph here, is that we could end up in a cash position of $540,000. But we're very confident that we'll be able to work closely with our members and with our vendors to make sure that we get the best possible result. So I guess in summary, as we know, no conference, we've not been able to get the incoming revenue from that, and therefore the income, which has been a challenge, but we have very quickly pivoted to looking at new ways and new promotional ways of developing income for the business. So really great work again in leadership by Jose, the board and the leadership team and Kellen there. We may see a decrease in the returns of the membership fees. So we're really hoping that people will put those membership fees back forward, but we may see a decrease in the membership fees. We continue to manage the administration costs very closely and looking to save wherever we can, but still making sure we're adding that value. We're being really selective about which strategic projects we are investing in, and if we're able to invest in the projects that are actually going to provide the most value to the members. So certainly you've seen a lot about the online platform that we're working with, so we'll continue to look to invest in there. But again, it's about providing value back to our membership. And then we continue to watch our cash flow and our cash position very closely. So I guess in closing, it has been a challenging year if you look at from the financial perspective. Again, full credit to the board and to Jose for his leadership and the management team and Kellen in being able to very quickly move to minimise our costs and maximise our cash position. And now looking at new creative ways to continue to deliver value for our audience and for our membership, which is really important. We still have a strong cash position. If you look at what we've just shown you there, having that position of $800,000 is a very strong position considering the environment that we're operating in. And I guess what can you do to support the CSA? Again, you heard Luigi say before, continue to support us and support the company and the organisation by sharing the information that we're sharing with you, the digital information, and keep promoting us in the social media presence. But also, as Luigi said, continue to refer us. So if you do know of a peer, if you know of a company that may not be aware of a CSA, please refer them. We'd really love to be able to share the benefits with those companies and bring them in as a member for the business as well. Sponsor the virtual events. We'll be obviously working with our membership, but also the vendors to sponsor the virtual events. It's a fantastic lineup. I'm really excited by what Jose shared today, and I'm sure there's more to come. So that's going to be really exciting. And again, if you can renew your membership early, that helps as well, just to keep the cash flow strong within the organisation. So again, we're very focused. We really thank you for your support. We are all in this together. And certainly, as Jose said, this is a moment in time. As we look forward, I'm sure things will never go back to the same because there's new ways of us reaching out to our membership. But I'm sure we're all looking forward to getting back together as soon as we possibly can. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you, Adrian. So I want to take a few minutes just to recognize some volunteers before we going into the Q&A. Happy retirements. At our recent survey, and please understand, we really read and leverage information that is provided, but we could see a transition from the boomers to Generation X. So that was as the biggest group responding to the survey. And of course, this is natural. This is the progress of time. And we will have more and more of these retirements of people that have been very key to the creation and the continuation and development of CSIA. So I want to recognize Steve Goldberg from Matrix Technologies. He was a past chair. He was a Charlie Bergman Award recipient. He has been the chair of the awards committee for a very long time. He has been a great conference award ceremony host, and this year he did a great job making it a virtual version. So for some of you who have gone only a few times to the conference, you may also have recognized them as being our photographer, also doing a great job and us leveraging all these pictures for promotion. So we want to wish Steve Goldberg and his wife Nancy all the best in their retirement. And I know because Steve reached out to me and he let me know that he wants to still stay in touch with CSIA, and I think that we will find a way for keeping Steve with us for as long as he wants. I also want to recognize two other members, Jim Bursick from MR System. He was a past member of the partner committee and a regular at our conference. So he has also decided to retire and enjoy the rest of his life. And Tom Reski, in a similar fashion, he has decided to retire. And when I say retire, they're all still linked to former businesses, etc. But officially, that's the title, and I think this is like their next project in life. And here's my last retirement that I want to announce. And by the way, I'm sharing these announcements with happy retirement because this information has been provided to me by these members. I am absolutely sure that there are other very significant retirements happening. I just did not get the information to share it. But I want to highlight this specific one. Jim Campbell from Viewpoint Systems. He has been the chair of the CSIA Statistics Committee and also the recipient of the Charlie Bergman Award in 2015. In charge of the Statistics Committee, we have had CAPEX, which then was replaced by Pulse, and it continues to be an important benchmarking program on the financial side of things. He also, in the last years, implemented Easy Stats. And the salary survey that we had, he took the leadership to convert it into the TRT, Talent Retention Toolbox, which was also very much appreciated in the last survey. So all of this has required an incredible amount of dedication by Jim through many, many, many years on the Statistics Committee. So we are really very thankful for his services to CSIA and wish him all the best. At the same time, I want to welcome Jeff Winter from Grantix Systems Integration, Inc. He's the incoming chair of CSIA Benchmarking Committee. It's not a typo. We want to change the name, this was a suggestion of Jeff, to be benchmarking, such that we closer align to our best practices and benchmarking. So this transition will take place at the end of the year. It has been taken progressively, and we look forward to Jeff Winter being on board. So thank you all, and happy retirement to all of the ones that I highlighted and the ones that I didn't. And now we come to the Q&A part of the session. And for that, I need to take a look into the Q&A box, and I will go from the first one that arrived, at least in my box. So Tony Balasek asked, if you're targeting weekly, would you consider starting a mix of 30 minutes and 60 minutes webinars just to test attendance, conciseness, and participation? It's a good suggestion, and we will make note of that. And Tony also asked, would you break down the quantity of end users that view the newsletter? Qualification, we as ICE would not typically be interested in advertising to competitors, with the possible exception of recruiting. So we may be able to do some digging. The target audience of the newsletter is more the system integrators and the vendor community. The real vehicles that CSIA has to reach out to end users are the exchange. The other one that also is leveraged for end users is the podcast. And I will also say that all the times we have an opportunity to present at events. So for example, today, after this recording, I will be recording a training for CFE Media. 1 or 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week, I had an event, a virtual event, because it was converted for obvious reason. And that was also an event called Markets and Markets. The target audience there is a mix, including end users. But all the participation that we have had traditional in the in-person trade shows or partner events, now converted into virtual, these are our vehicles to reach out to end users. Okay. Okay, so Paul Giller just providing some up-to-date news that Emerson announced the purchase of Progea today. Let me just say one thing. I worked for Emerson Electric for 11 years, and in the process automation side. And I would like to have Emerson, I wanted to have Emerson part of CSA for a very long time. It did not work out. We know that in the United States, they have a very selective, exclusive channel through their local solution business partners. But Emerson bought the platform from GE. And now with this acquisition of Progea, they also bought OSI, not OSI Soft, but the OSI that does software dedicated to networks of pipelines and utilities. And more, the portfolio of Emerson looks very compatible, and also their way to go to market with the way CSIA does. And so I think that the chances of Emerson becoming a member of CSIA are increasing. So these are the questions that I see. You're welcome to add questions. Anybody from the board is welcome to add comments.
Jose, may I would take a few seconds. I would like to take a few seconds to really thank you, all the board members, you, Jose, and all Kellen staff, because this year was a really tough year. It required some extra work, some extra participation, some extra energy, and it even required to take some tough decisions that were really difficult to discuss and to take. But the support of the board, your support, Lisa's support, the support of all the staff was absolutely great. And if we are in this shape right now, and we can talk about a future that we are trying to shape bright for all of us, it's because of all the activities that we did together. So really, thank you to everybody.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for being so supportive in all our efforts and being a great sounding board for all the concepts that we passed by them, and they did the right job, which is like ask a lot of questions and probe just to make sure that we had something that is valuable and is likely to be successful. So I think that without any further ado, I think we can close this mid-year town hall. I thank everybody for the participation, the board, our staff, and most of all, you attendants to this virtual event. Stay safe, and we will see you in all the virtual events that we have planned for you. Thank you. Bye.